Hi there, Andy. We going to do a little bit of an intro to last night's video. Out in my garden. Weather's changing here in the UK. A bit damp and horrible. My cold's getting better. Feel a bit better this morning. Been a bit under the weather all week, but hey ho, it is what it is. Now, this is a bit of an intro. Last night, crazy cool. Did another virtual down a pub podcast where, like I did last week, I invited all the members, anyone that wanted to join, to come and have a look. Come and say hi and have a bit of a chat. Didn't know what to expect. I never, on the odd occasion I know that someone might pop in because they let me know, but yeah, it was really cool. What was really interesting was, because I wasn't expecting anybody, but hoping someone would pop in, I had to do a bit of rambling myself, so I do apologise for that. But it was like my old Whiskey Wednesday days on my other channel, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I had a good old chat. We had someone trying to get in to come on 1LV, tried a few times, and you'll have to watch it, but I got a little bit excited thinking, someone new, that's really cool. But no, that was funny. But he did eventually come on later, which he obviously sorted it out. And also I was joined by Camel Finance, which is always really cool for him to come on. The most important thing for me is it was a brand new member to the channel. The channel membership's growing, which is fantastic. Can't thank you all enough for supporting it. It was really good, a good conversation. I had to ramble for quite a bit myself, so I'm sorry if that's a bit boring at the beginning, but Camel joined in a bit later, which was really cool. Had a good old chat with Camel, and then LV joined in. Very interesting conversation went on, particularly between him and Camel. Yeah, it's great. I'm over the moon. It's working, guys. Thank you very much. We're slowly giving people the opportunity to actually be involved, and just goes to prove, if you're a member, you get to talk like 1LV did to Camel directly, which most people wouldn't have that opportunity to, even though they probably would like to. So yeah, this particular podcast that I'm doing every week gives, you never know, you get to talk to people that you're following on other channels. So yeah, it's opening up all sorts of avenues. Anyway, enough rambling. I rambled on enough last night. I hope you're all well. Thank you very much for your support. You take good care. Enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye. Recording in progress. Hello. I love it. Welcome to the podcast, Virtual Dinner Pub Night. Sunday. Can't believe that week has gone so quick already. Now, have no idea if anyone's going to jump in, join. That's quite the exciting thing. Exciting? Probably the wrong word to use. That's what I like about the virtual night. Obviously, ask any members if they want to come on. They can join. But that's not going to stop me jumping on and having a cup of tea, talking about a load of rubbish, sharing my views, see where it goes, see where the conversation goes, more than anything. Bit taken aback, actually, because we'd had tea quite early tonight, dinner, whatever you want to call it, and I watched quite a few podcasts, and one of them is Liam Niles. Oh God, I'm gonna totally balls it up. I try and find it. Where is he? No, Liam Tufts. Quite interesting podcast. Normal guy. very diverse people he has on. And I noticed, obviously, the feed jumped up on my YouTube, and is it was about a young lady, blonde blue, I think. Is it blonde blue? I'm making a white hash of this. Have a look at the history. Bonnie Blue. Bonnie Blue. And I thought, oh, what's that about? And I've watched half an hour of it. And it was a 25-year-old lady, attractive looking young lady, and how she got into OnlyFans, Cami, whatever that is, Cami, OnlyFans. And it's all of porn, really. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because I mean, you need to watch it yourself if you're into that sort of thing. But what I love about podcasts is you really do get to know about what really goes on out there in the world, what people think, how they get to do what they're doing, and the set of circumstances that leads them up to doing that. And yeah, it's really interesting because it brings around it brings out all your own biases, your own views when you're watching these things. And that's what I really enjoy about what I'm going to try and do with this podcast, and try and understand why people do things. Interesting, really interesting. Some of the stuff she was saying. It 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 also brings up a big question in your own mind. Well, it does in my mind, that that's someone's daughter, and how would they, how what goes through people's minds, when you have ethics and biases of how you should live and how you should perform and how you should be as a human being. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. What if we just give ourselves a chance to even think about, well, what if that was me? What if that was my daughter? How would I be? And a lot of it is a pure understanding. Hopefully, if people are being genuine when they tell their stories, wow, yeah, it's good to watch these podcasts. He's doing a great job. Does some fascinating stuff. Liam Nuff's worth a look, for sure. There's some great people doing some podcasts out there. Seems to be the thing. Learning and understanding about people and their stories. And I think as time progresses, we'll look back at this period and maybe, just maybe, learn and understand a little bit more about ourselves and how we become what we are and what we're doing. Interesting, very interesting indeed. So I'm going to fill in some time. As I said, I have no idea. A few people know. Obviously, I'm doing this, but I know everyone's busy. So hopefully, someone will drop in. But if they don't, I'm going to have to put up with my boring voice for a while. So I'll try and come up with some interesting stuff to talk about. I've been a bit poorly this week. This horrible bug that's been going around. Wifey, well, actually, my youngest boy caught something a little while back and was not well, and sort of semi-recovered. Very coldy like, fluey, but not that harsh. Then my wife went down with that. a week and a bit ago now. And then, of course, I get it. So yeah, it's been a bit crap week really, but today's probably the first day that I've felt a little bit more human again. It's horrible, but that's for sure. One elf. Oh, we've got someone joining us. That's cool. I had no idea who this is. This is exciting. One LV is connecting. Who is one LV? Interesting, interesting. Who could this be? Who could this be? I wonder. It's really one love, one life. Wonder what that stands for. One love, one love. Who sung that? One heart. Did, 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 did. I don't know. Anyway, while this person's connecting, um, hopefully very soon. Yeah, so obviously I felt a little bit better. So that's really cool. Hopefully this will go, but it's took a while. It took a real while. I don't know whether it's a weather thing um, or what really. It's interesting, really interesting. Well, in the UK at the moment, maybe it's like it all around the world, but in the UK especially, winter seems to be taking a while to come. Although there's some cold weather coming along, I'm always a firm believer that when the cold weather comes, it kills off the bugs, and it's kind of cool to. Whoever was trying to join can't join for some reason. Hopefully they will connect in a little while. But what was I going to say? Yeah, weather. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that it's always cool. Hopefully, if you're sort of semi-fit and healthy, to get these bugs, does your immune system well. As long as you're eating healthily and you're looking after yourself, it just keeps that immune system going, which can't be a bad thing at all. Really intrigued to know who that was trying to pop in. Someone with a struggling connection. Don't know. This is what I love about it, though. What am I holding? My minion's cup of tea. Anyway, hopefully someone can maybe jump on in a little while. So yeah, been under the weather. But hopefully getting better. So I thought if no one joins in tonight, I'm going to talk for a little while. I want to talk about Bitcoin and my little journey in Bitcoin. It's it's been a real strange thing for me. I followed it for almost 3 years now. My youngest boy has followed it for almost 3 years now. And I'm beginning to have more faith in possibly what I thought it could lead to. It's not going away. I watch a lot of, I've watched a lot of stuff on economics, financial institution. Bitcoin's led me to all sorts of different avenues, gold, silver. For anyone knows that just had a couple of years, into my gold and silver, learning about that as well, which I love. But Bitcoin's always been a really interesting thing that's always sat at the back of my mind. And I've often wondered what it is. What is it that I connected with when I come across it a couple of years ago, well, 3 years ago almost. And I was trying to think about what that was the other day in a little bit more detail. I think primarily I was looking at something to invest in because I had that opportunity to invest some money. And for some reason, Bitcoin appeared on all the feeds when I was on YouTube. And whether I was fortunate enough or not, the algorithm pushed me into some creators, podcasty type creators that gave me an automatic connection to what I actually felt about what I was listening to about Bitcoin. There also sent me lots, and I mean lots, of creators and YouTube channels that didn't resonate with me at all. So I was trying to work out what was that resonation, what actually made me feel that that has this is something. And I've been on that path of discovery with Bitcoin, since, to be honest. I can't still put my finger on it. I'm damn pleased I'm in it. I'm damn pleased I've got it for obvious reasons. I've gone through the ups and downs of the money, what it's worth, and I'd be a liar if I didn't say that that's had a massive effect on my emotions through my journey in Bitcoin so far. Always comes to the money. Always comes back to what's it worth, what's its value. And I've had plenty of opportunity on that journey to be able to come out of Bitcoin through the volatility that it's shown me. But it's always been something that on this occasion, because I did have the opportunity to get in back in 20, got to think hard now, 2010, 2011. What an opportunity that would have been. But I didn't, through circumstances that the gut feeling wasn't ready for me then. But when I was ready, beginning of 22, there was just this weird thing. Someone else is, the same person's trying to get back in. So hopefully they will, but I'll carry on. So I've had plenty of opportunity to get out through its volatility and its. But fortunate enough, I've held through that. I've got a young son that's, sees the same sort of and has the same sort of feeling about it going forward, which has really helped me a lot. But yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. Almost like, I dare I say it, like almost a spiritual thing that I can't put my finger on. But for some reason, every time on that journey I've had any doubts, Camel, who I've followed from day one almost, he for some reason would have pushed out a particular video that has just thought, oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that's why I'm doing it. Some certain other channels that I've religiously watched for years now. There seems to be this reassuring video that, I'm still doing the right thing, still believing in the right thing. And it's kept me in through all of its ups and downs. And here we are today at a level that is exciting, but I don't have. I'm not betting my house on it, that's for sure. Where we have a complete, almost US presidential election based on using the ethics of what Bitcoin was supposed to be, if you read the white paper, possibly used for in the future of a digital age. Maybe that's going to happen. We'll see. Politicians, we never know. They have that awful habit of getting you on their side. But it kind of feels right. There's a big shift going on, and that wrapped up with our economical position and globally may just mean that right place, right time this time. We will see. You know, we will definitely see. But excuse me, I'm pleased I'm in. Very pleased I'm in. I'm pleased I've held my nerves. It's been a big test of my emotions. That's for sure. I don't know how day traders trade. I have no idea. It must be so stressful. There's so much noise out there. There's so much interference. There's so many things that can make you thinking about it. Make you think about stuff that probably isn't quite relevant, and make you second guess yourself all the time. There's so many people have got so many gains and to tell you stuff and lead you down the wrong path. If there is a wrong path, if it's a right, I don't know. It's so confusing. So I'm kind of happy and really pleased that on this time around that I've managed to, or am managing to negotiate my way around it all, because I honestly do believe that, you know, I've hopefully made a difference to my future and my children's future. Hmm. That's true. One love. Come on, one love. You can do this. You can connect. One life, one love, one LV. Connecting to audio. They're really struggling for some reason. Don't know why. They didn't make it. They're trying. Maybe they're on a mobile and the connection's not very good. Don't know. Have no idea. We'll see. So yeah, Bitcoin seems to be in the news. But that said, you go outside of YouTube, your algorithm feeds, whatever you're interested in on social media. The amazing thing is most people that I come across, dare I say it, probably at least 96% of the people I come across got no idea. Absolutely no idea. So it's, to me, that means we're just at such an early stage of what this asset can be, and who knows where it can go. Will it be too late for most people once they know? No idea. I have no idea. Will it be a thing? Will it not be a thing? I have no idea. Does it make sense? It could be a thing. If you do your research, but you've got to really pound that research. You really have. It's really interesting. Very interesting times for sure, for sure. Mm. What I will say is that if we are in this early, still early stage, it's definitely worth doing your research and having a look at what Bitcoin absolutely represents and trying to not think of it as what it's worth. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely hard not to do that and not be obsessed by number go up, number go down, number go up, number go down. It's a you know it's a real emotional ride, that's for sure. But if you ever get that stage where, oh god, it's gone down, I've just put a £10 in, whatever, you know, just what you can afford. You know, this isn't any advice whatsoever, but it's like anything in life. You know, whether it's silver coins, gold coins, stock shares, it's worth doing the research. It's not at this moment in time. It's, you know, for me personally, I don't want to just gamble. I want to educated gamble. I want a real educate. I want something that will push my mind, push my understanding, push my logic, and learn about what's going on. Because most of the time, we're blind to it. And what we always find at a later date, when the dust settles and that early stage is gone and things become normal, you know, most of us have missed an opportunity. And what you find that the opportunity was taken by other people. And I've quite often found in my life when we've been talking about certain things, where you're down a pub, you know, with your friends, or even watching whatever, you hear stories about, oh, people took an opportunity, an educated risk. You know, some people have been very lucky, obviously, but you know, they got in early, and we're early. We're in early in all of this. You know, it's not just Bitcoin. It's these stages. It might not feel like it, of a change. I believe a change of how we do stuff, how we understand stuff, how we go about stuff, how we communicate, how we, you know, how we push on the hamster wheel, how we perceive what's going on, geopolitically wise, politics wise, local politics wise, community wise. What is community anymore? And what where's innovation? You know, it's, as Cam always says, it's what a time to be alive, and I really get that. It is an amazing time to be alive, that's for sure. So don't discount anything, but do your research. You know, go and watch people like Robert Breedlove. What, what is Money series podcast? It's amazing, very educational. Not everyone is for me, but every now and then one will pop up, and I think, wow, flipping heck, that makes sense. Didn't know that. Um, Navigating your way around this whole social media thing is a real test in trust, but that trust is it. The real test is you. You know, you. The test is what you believe and what makes you tick. What makes what makes sense to you. And a lot of the time, yeah, you have to educate yourself and go down these different little rabbit holes, as people call them, to find out what resonates with you. And trust me, it works. It does work. That's for sure. That is for sure. It does work. So yeah, we nearly had someone come in. I'd be curious to know who that was. Really curious. See if anybody's posted on the page to say they're trying. Have a look. Don't want to be playing that. No. Ah, yeah, it's really, really curious. Really curious. So, yeah, interesting times. That's for sure. That is for sure. But I like my journey. The past couple of years, since I had my other channel, Creative Precious Metals, when I got into my gold and silver collecting, stacking, does it make sense? I like the idea of those three hardcore assets. I like the idea of the two physical sides to gold and silver. Makes sense, makes logical sense. But it's very hard for me to ignore in a digital world what am I prepared to ignore what silver and gold represent in a physical way, what Bitcoin represents in a digital way? Am I prepared to ignore that? And I love this saying that, and I've heard other people talk about British hodl, says about it quite often, quite rightly so. It makes sense that, you know, in the future, if this all plays out, who knows, that at some stage where my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, are talking to their parents, and their parents are saying, "Oh, Granddad had the opportunity to do this. I remember him talking about that as it's passed along." And they say, "Well, why didn't he get in? Why didn't he then?" You know, and I don't want that. Not this time. If this possibly may not help me in this lifetime as much as I'd like it to, obviously, the legacy is further down the line. And how can I ignore that? So you put a risk assessment on that. You work out whether you can or you can't around the necessities of having to live with your current economic country's set up. And you just work out how can I? Is it worth it? Is it not? For me, this time around, definitely was. And it definitely is. For me. Trust me. It's the conviction has been tested, and it's continually tested up here in your mind. But thank God there's other people out there that are far greater adversed and educated on certain things that I'm not. And at some point, you have to trust that. Make sure it sits inside there. And if it does all that, then you can just, you know, ease that burden of emotional torture sometimes when you're watching these things go up and down, up and down, up. Yeah, it's interesting. Just be careful. Do your homework. You so got to do your homework. Really have. got to be more aware about this. I have to learn how to it saves you listening to the puffing train. So yeah, it's I'm hoping that we can have better conversation about Bitcoin going forward and silver and gold. I know a lot of people that I've associated with over the past couple of years and got really friendly with the precious metals community over the last couple of years. But for me, that sort of stage is moving on a little bit now. Very privileged to be associated with people that know about precious metals far more than me. And again, at that level has helped me cope. Obviously Cobra that comes on the channel sometimes. He helped me out a lot. We've helped each other out a lot. Pardon me. So yeah, the silver and gold thing, I have a deep affiliation with as well, and all of them have helped me understand finance in a different way that before 3 years ago I had no idea about. Absolutely no idea about. So yeah, we go from OnlyFans to Bitcoin. Strange podcast. And someone that was trying to get in, and they've tried a couple of times, but they haven't. That's a shame. It's a shame, but it's really cool. It means that my communication of getting this out there obviously reaches people. So that's really cool. What about the channel? Should we talk about the channel for a bit? I like this. I love this idea. Last week, when I was talking to Kemo, Zabi, and Camel, towards the end of that quite long podcast, we well, I was saying like going forward, I see so many things out there. This is my opinion only. I see so many channels out there that be careful what I say now. I've got to pick my words. Offer value and sometimes appear to me that the creation of value is more important than the content. Very cryptic the way I put that. But I think that's fair to say that. Now, for me, what I'm doing, one, I see that. Obviously, some people can listen to this, go, well, you've got membership. Yeah, I have, yeah. Quite a low, a low amount a month. That's just to give me that incentive to keep things going. Um, and two, that has been a driver for me to try and work out how I can incorporate those members to have a channel that will allow them the free space if they want to be a part of more than what I've seen for many other channels. Not that I've seen them all. So that gave me that idea that's going to be my driver. Hence, that every Sunday to give members the opportunity to come on board. And also, I think Ken mentioned it last week that obviously Kem and Camel bring a lot to the party here They've got big channels. Kem's channel's growing very quick. They have a unique following that I know some of the Camel Crew are subscribers to this channel, and some of them have joined as well, which is really cool. But it will also give me the opportunity to produce some content with creators that will be unique for membership. So they can, I can offer members possibly going forward a unique way to actually interact with creators that come on the channel, myself as well. And also, I I feel that, you know, being a member of something, you've got to feel a part of it. And maybe not, this is really strong, just a doormat to someone's accumulation of trying to make a living, which is nothing wrong with that, of course. And, you know, I respect that totally. But for me, at my stage in life, probably not chasing the pound note in the UK where I live as much as other people. And, you know, fair play. Fair play. It's people need to do what they need to do. And I'm very supportive of that. But for me going forward, I'd like the members that come to the channel and to give them the opportunity. I'm not forcing them, to give them that opportunity to feel more part of it, and to also give them the opportunity to be a part of it. And that's going to take a bit of time to build that. But we're doing it. You know, my wife laughed at me when I set all this up. She said, members, you won't get a member. And I said, yeah, probably won't get a member. But, you know, we've gone from no members to 12 members, you know, and so it works. It absolutely works. And the feedback I've had so far through the members that I've spoken to, they love it. Absolutely love it. Excuse, excuse me. So, yeah, going forward, that's what I want to do. And then it's going to be an ongoing build for me on the channel to actually start to understand what members like, and then for me to bring in the content that people like. And the other important thing for me to do as well is to make sure that I'm enjoying the journey too. That's really important for me. So yeah, it's good things. I'm in no rush. I've got as much time as what I've got, and I'm pretty chilled about it. It's helped me immensely to drop my other channel, which I so miss. I was heavily involved in a Discord group as well, and openly, I really enjoyed that, but it was just too much, miles too much for me. I couldn't focus on the one thing I really wanted to do. I can now. So yeah, sorry, it's easier than that. Down the microphone. So yeah, that's what I'd like. I really want to bring some diversity and some real strong storylines that I enjoy. But most of all, as the membership builds through communication in that membership, then I will start to understand the type of content people would like. And I think when you're paying for something, then then you should listen. You should listen to what people want. I think that's an important oversight that some people may miss. Um, Two swigs in a cig. That's been really difficult. I know that's very popular. Cobra's been, yeah, he's busy. He's a busy boy, you know. This time of year for me, plumbing and heating engineer, when I'm well, is extremely busy for me. And I know Camel's with his channel, everything that he's doing, he's extremely busy too. But we'll get something. We'll get something there. Um, you know, it's important for me to be a little bit regular with this, which I really enjoy on a Sunday evening. And it'd be kind of cool if I wasn't just talking to myself. But I don't mind. It gives me a chance just to talk, really, I suppose. I used to do this on a thing called Whiskey Wednesday on my other channel, and that was normally fueled by alcohol, as you can imagine. And I used to talk about what was going on in the gold and silver community, which was quite a popular thing. But people also like, for some reason, like to listen to my viewpoints on things. So that's what's going on in the channel. I shall work away in the background. Um, I want to try and get my studio up and running, but I know that's not going to be ready until springtime next year. Um, so we'll keep building things around this sort of Zoom setup with this sort of background. But I know that I've got a real good vision for where I want it to be. I'm slowly getting some nice art pieces together to have in the background and make it a proper sort of similar background to what you can, not similar to this, but make it a real, not a virtual background, but real background. And yeah, we'll just see where it goes more than anything. That will be interesting to see where that goes. Very interesting indeed. Always like to play around with a little piece of silver here and around and chatting. So yeah, that's the channel. That should be interesting. And I can't thank the members enough. I'll call you out actually. Let me call you out and just say a proper thank you. Um, who we got? Who we got? Who we got? Show on there. Not the quickest person in the world. Memberships. Um, right, a recent member, K&K. Thank you. I think you joined today or yesterday. Ah, 1LV. Now I know who was trying to get on. He or she joined a couple of days ago. Thank you very much. Sorry you couldn't get on. Hopefully you'll try again in a little while. Now I know who that was. I love your avatar. It's a monkey. That's brilliant. Camel, obviously you all know Camel, Cobra Stacker, Kamazabi, Average Geo. Yeah, he's been following my channel for a while as a subscriber. He's a member. Thank you so much. J Ken, thank you. Daft Precious Metals, thank you. Mehmet Kaya. He interacts with me on a channel, on his comments, very supportive. Kenny Wu, love that. Kenny Wu, what a lovely name. It's really cool. Every cloud, man. I have some great conversations with every cloud outside of YouTube and outside of social media. And lovely guy. Hopefully he'll come on one day. Been following me for, especially on my other channel, right from almost day one. So yeah, really cool, really cool. And Creative Precious Metals. Who's that? Oh, it's me. I follow myself. So yeah, it's a shout out to you 12 guys. You know, it's really appreciated, and yeah, it'd be cool when I get to a stage where it takes me half an hour to read out because we've got so many people. It's really exciting. Really, I'm really looking forward to it. And what I'm going to do, interesting thing is, what I'm going to do is YouTube a bit weird. Um, they're never forwarding, wanting to give you any money, and I've received nothing because you have to get to so much money, accumulate so much money, and then they send it to you, which is fine. If that's how it works. That's how it works. Who am I to say anything? You know, didn't think I'd get one person, so that's the way it works. That's the way it works. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to any money I get from YouTube on this channel, and you're going to have to trust me on this, and we'll see. Um, I'm going to invest it and keep the members up to date with that investment. And we're going to try and do something with the money. And I don't know, it might go towards helping build the channel somehow. But I'm going to keep it quite transparent. I'm not in this as a money grab. I'm really not. I don't need to be. Sounds very arrogant, but I don't. This is this is more than a passion, really. It's a little dream of mine, pushed from deep in the heart to make a difference for people. You know, hopefully, if we can. So yeah, that'd be interesting. So when we get that, I'll log that on a spreadsheet, and you know, we'll see what we can do with it. Be a good test. But yeah, that's what's going on with the channel. Exciting times, very exciting times. We'll just see if we can build a different type of community to what most people experience in this social media setup. So anyway, I'm going to pause that for a minute because I'm going to make a drink. Back. Decided to get myself a very nice glass of red wine. Very apt for Sunday evening. But yeah, so that's going to be quite exciting for the channel. Very, very exciting, actually. So what else can I ramble on about? I'll try and make the hour, see if anyone can come in. And if they don't, they don't. It's fine. So I've got a cough sweet as well. Just soothes my throat. And this horrible cold I've had. I don't know how it's going to come out on the recording, but I do apologise. So, what did you think about having my daughter on last week? Well, it's really cool. Different perspective. One of my biggest challenges is trying to break away from the norm of talking about finance all the time. It's a big passion of mine, obviously, and to be fair, it's been a bit of an obsession because of my journey and what I've tried to achieve and trying to achieve. But it kind of broke the ice a little bit having my daughter on last week because kind of started talking about just excuse me, talking about just general stuff. And I think that's quite underrated now. I know a few podcasts do that. But one of the most fascinating things I've found on my my investment journey was to part of that educational thing that has really helped me and continues to help me is for me to keep my feet firmly on the ground of the outside world, away from YouTube, away from social media. Because although I've heavily invested my time and energy into educating myself in and around social media, and boy, has that helped me so much. But the real backup, cheers everybody, the real backup is taking it out into the real world. When you're out shopping, when you're out at work, when you're just walking, when you're genuinely interacting with people, listening, watching, observing, and see if any parts of those things that you're learning about are reflected in to the day-to-day of community without a biased view, which is really difficult to do, without a biased view of how you want to perceive or see it. And that takes some doing sometimes, but boy, is it worth it. Because you can quite easily fall into the trap, and I've done it, and I will probably keep doing it. You can fall into this trap in this virtual world of ours that we plug ourselves into to learn stuff. And the clever ways the algorithm works, and it will feed you what you like, basically. But that can give you very quickly an unrealistic view on life, especially if you spend a lot of time on it, which I'm very guilty of doing. So the important thing to do is to take what you're learning away and just see if that's applied to normal day to day. But you've got to try and do it without your bias 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 spectacles on. It's hard, especially in an investment point of view, because over time you invest in money that we all perceive as being precious. I get it. We do. We need it. We invest it and we want to just see reasons why we've done the right thing, but we miss a trick when we do that because our views become very biased to our outcomes of what we want. And trust me, you begin to miss and start to second guess, maybe even start to gamble when you shouldn't, because you start to live in a world that isn't real. And that's for everyone to discover for themselves. But recognizing it as a possibility, which is why I don't mind sharing my journey, um, may help us all um, try to achieve whatever goals we're trying to achieve. There's many a time that I've watched something and second guessed on people's opinions, just like what I'm doing now. It's an opinion. But because it fitted my narrative of what I'm trying to achieve, I've missed the point sometimes. And the point is, on some occasions, that whatever that person is putting across, I was probably sometimes missing the obvious. Um, because people will tell you what you want to hear in the real world, in the real physical world, and in the virtual world. And people aren't stupid. They know they can make money out of it. In the real world, in the virtual world, it's a natural thing. But we owe it to ourselves to recognize that sometimes and to just pull yourself back, just listen, give yourself that opportunity, and then work out, okay, is there another opinion like this? Go a little bit deeper, dig a little bit deeper, then try and perceive it into the outside world. And it takes time. Everyone's in a rush, which I get. Guilty as anything for that. Not the most patient guy in the world at all. But trust me, to learn a bit of patience goes down a dream. It can really help you. So yeah, test your knowledge. Test that knowledge, and with regards to anything, it doesn't have to be finance or investment. You know, if you hear it so many times, it's tough for young people. Or do you experience that? Do you talk to young people properly? Listen to young people? Do you give yourself the opportunity to observe young people? Do when you go shopping, are you aware of the demographic age of who's spending? And then when you go out socializing, are you aware of the demographic age who's spending? What does that mean? It mean multiple different meanings. It it can back up what you're learning about. So, to give you an example, if over the last 50, 60 years, I call the money bubble has been great. Work was great as such. Which is generally, I know there's always exceptions either way, generally. But yeah, 60, 50, 60 years, probably longer, maybe 70 years, don't know. Money bubble's been good. Been ups and downs, good pensions. Generally good opportunities. We have someone come in. He's joined us.
Hello?
Hello, dude. All right.
You all by yourself?
Yes, mate. I've been for an hour.
An hour.
It's been
Oh
quite
dear.
cool. Someone's been trying to join actually twice.
Oh yeah.
One of the members, It's called 1LV,
Oh yeah.
but couldn't connect for some reason.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was sitting there going, "Oh, please join, please join." No, I've just been. It's quite cool actually. It's reminded me of my Whiskey Wednesday days,
Oh yeah.
where I was just sitting there talking, and that's what I've done. It's been quite nice actually. I've got a nice glass of wine.
Lovely.
Yeah, just one glass of wine, dude. Been very good. You're right, dude.
Yeah, I'm all right. I went for a roast dinner at my mum's house.
Yeah.
That was nice. Had all the family there.
Hmm.
Happy days.
Yeah. Good weekend.
Yeah, I didn't do much. Walked the dog on the beach.
Yeah.
Um, hung out with the wife, and yeah, like I said, spent some time. Oh, we went to the in-laws today as well, and my father-in-law's just bought a new BMW, so he took me out for a drash in that. That was pretty cool.
The ones you got?
I
No
think
idea.
I think it's a 330i or a 330M, something like
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty smart.
They are
Not
nice, aren't
really a
they?
BMW kind of guy, to be fair, but it was yeah, it was cool.
Now I'm curious. What kind of BMW guy are you?
I wouldn't like to say.
It's really weird with cars, isn't it? Cars are just a really weird thing.
Well, I think I'll say this: out of the, if you're going to go German, I think you got the Audi, the BMW, and the Mercedes. And I lean on Mercedes more than anything.
Okay. Any
Yeah,
particular reason?
don't know. I think they're just. I mean, to be completely honest, I think the maybe it's just like a branding thing.
Hmm.
Um, because they've got like you know what I mean. If you get a whatever the range is, whatever the model is, there's one in each.
Yeah.
It's all the same, really, isn't it? It's all just probably all comes out of the same factory.
Most
Um,
likely. It's all German engineering.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, arguably, like it's probably the same as like Volkswagen as well, right? Some of those parts are probably just pulled straight off of like a Golf or whatever,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
just probably mark them up and charge you like three times as much.
Yeah, they're all
Um,
Frankensteins, aren't they? Really?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's like pros and cons of each or whatever. But I just personally, as personal preference, I guess, I just like the Mercedes more.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's we're suckers, aren't we, for getting used to comfort of a brand.
Yeah,
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. I've been the same. I've been a big VW person until I got into Audi. Once I got into Audi, that's it.
yeah. I like Audis too. I've owned a couple of Audis, so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Not so much the Audi I've got now. Hate it. No, that's wrong. I don't hate it. It's the most practical thing I've ever done in all my life. But it's lovely to drive. But just getting in and out when you're 6'4" is just.
yeah,
But that's what my wife wanted, and now she's already saying we've only had it 2 months. She's saying, I wish we still had the old one.
yeah, yeah.
What?
Do you like the electric cars?
Uh, the I like the look of the. They call it the E. I think it's the e-tron. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure the Audi e-tron, isn't it? They're beautiful, beautiful to look at. But I've never driven an electric car. I've when I was in Mauritius, they've got electric cars everywhere. Absolutely, all the cabs have gone. All the transfers that the transfers that we used, they all used the electric cars for whatever reason. And is it? Oh, is it? How do you pronounce? Is it Kia? Kia?
yeah, Kia.
Yeah, it's a brand, isn't it? The Kia that we went in when we went back to the airport was like being in a spaceship, and it was the most as passengers, me and my wife were sitting in the back. We just felt like a king and queen. Like it was just, the driver was really good as well. He obviously knew how to drive the car. But it was the most comfortablest ride I've probably had for a long while, really. Sitting in the back, well impressed, quiet, smooth. Yeah, the
Yeah.
technology out there is just amazing, really.
Funny enough, my in-laws and my sister-in-law and my father-in-law, my wife's got multiple sets of parents. So the other
Yes, yeah, I
father-in-law,
think we was talking about it last week.
yeah, the other father-in-law, they've both got Nissan. I don't know if they're Qashqais, big SUV Nissans, basically.
Yeah, these cash
And
guys.
I would never have even thought to look in that direction. But I've been in both of those, and they're the same. They feel like spaceships. They're nice. They're comfortable. They got plenty of technology. Uh, Technology is not really something I care for in a car, but it's kind of cool to see it. And yeah, I was quite surprised really because they cost like a fraction of an Audi or a Mercedes, and they basically got all the same stuff
Yeah,
and some.
yeah. It's definitely quite interesting actually. Before you come in, I was talking about my journey really on and certain aspects of it. And one of the biggest things I've tried to incorporate on in my investment journey is to not just take for granted everything that I absorb from social media and YouTube as an educational route, but then observe it in the real world, what I call the real world, and see if it's a practicality, and then try and join the dots and cross the T's.
Hmm.
And funny you should say that because we're doing that now. We're almost talking about a technology that's surprising us through our observations,
Yeah,
and it's becoming a thing. Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, it's becoming a thing, and it's excuse the pun, it's being driven, and when you experience it, it's sort of, oh wow, it's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and it's a very healthy thing to well, I believe for myself, it's always a healthy thing to actually see things in the real world, because it then you can, for me, I can associate, yeah, it is happening. It isn't just what people are saying is wrong or people are saying is right. It's actually happening,
mm,
and
mm.
it works. I mean, the funny thing about this silly little Audi we've got now, which is a lovely little car, to be fair, when you talk about technology, but I noticed I hardly drive the family car that I call a family car. My wife drives it all the time. But on the odd occasion, we went out today, and I noticed how it's the technology is just reacting. You come up to a 30 mile an hour zone, 40 mile an hour zone, it just brakes for you automatically now. It
Right.
brings you down. It brings you down to the speed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so aware. I mean, it's not obviously a Tesla or anything. It's so aware, and I just think, wow, that's just basic in my car. That's come on big time, probably in the last couple of years, and then it's made me think. If you look at autonomous driving and what Tesla's trying to do, and other car man, is it BYB? No, not BMB, is it the big Chinese manufacturer of autonomous cars, electric cars? You can actually see the technology or appreciate how that technology could work, even at a level in my car. It's really interesting, dude.
Mm.
Fascinating, fascinating.
Are you one for a bit of power and oomph in the cars or
I
not
was,
so
mate.
much?
Yeah, yeah. The
Was.
last, you know what my last car was?
Yeah, yeah.
That was just like
Because I
me.
was I was gonna say that's one thing you can spec with the Audis, the Beamers, and the Mercedes,
Yeah,
is you can spec a bigger engine.
yeah,
and then it's almost a completely different thing.
Yeah,
Versus if you're looking at the cheaper brands, or
yeah.
let's call it the less prestigious brands, you can't spec the four, five, 600 brake engines on them. Which, let's be honest, you don't need. But
But it's the experience, isn't it?
yeah, it is. It's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's. I suppose the interesting thing out of that though is that I was brought up with the internal combustion engine, ICE, what everyone calls them. And as a young man, it was the thrill of going fast, experience going, being the driver. It's a very male thing,
Yeah.
egotistical, man's man. Got out the car. What car you getting? Back in the day, it was like 2.8 Granadas, 3 litre Capris, 2 litre, 2 litre cars, 1600E Mark II Cortinas, show me age now. Mark One Mexico engine Escorts, all that stuff. And then the Cosworth come out,
Yep.
and it was all that, yes, beef, driver's car, stuff. And that has never left me.
Yep.
Like my old car that we just traded in. I miss that so much, even though I hardly ever went in it, hardly ever used it. But when I started it up on a cold start, it sounded like it made me buzz.
Yeah, yeah.
It just made me buzz because it
Yeah, I
was
know what
just
you're
like,
talking about.
wow, people would turn like, wow,
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
hell is that? My mates would, my friends would say, God, I love your car when it starts up, when it's cold. It's really cool. It's got a lovely
Mm.
sound. And, you put your foot down and you be a bit silly here and there because it was built for performance. You could put a smile on your face.
Yeah, yeah. It's a simple man thing, right?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. But saying that, when my grandson hits 18, he's going to get the same thrill, possibly, in a Tesla like car
Yeah.
with a obscene speed if you want it, but quietly.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. That's my biggest point of like
Possibly.
contention with
Yeah, go
the
on.
electric cars is I
Yeah.
feel like it's not just that actually. I was talking about this with my father-in-law earlier because we were talking about how like all of these modern German cars that they don't really do them, especially if you get a performance one, they're all automatic now. And so the best you can hope for is like flappy paddles. But you lose an element of the experience by not having a clutch, not shifting with the left hand. And we were saying like, I mean, it's cool because I mean, obviously those gearboxes are so high tech now. Many of them have got like dual clutch transmissions, and they can change in like 20 or 50 milliseconds quicker than you can
Oh,
blink,
God, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, so from a pure performance perspective, it makes perfect sense to just take away the stick and have the gearbox and the computer do it for you. But I do feel like you definitely lose an element of like slamming the gears and the noise they make as well. He was telling me in his so I said, "Oh, it sounds really good." I was quite surprised.
Yeah,
Um, and he said, "Oh, I think some of it might be artificial." I said,
it
"What do you
is.
mean artificial?" And he said, "I
Yeah,
think some of it comes through the speakers." And I
it
was like,
does.
"What? They're playing an engine note through the audio system?" I was
My
really
out.
blown away by that because I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, loads of those cars have valves in the exhaust or whatever. It makes them burble and pop and bang and whatever, and that's kind of artificial to a degree. But I was really kind of shocked that yeah, they play engine noises through the speakers. And it
Yeah.
does sound good. It does sound good. But again, it kind of speaks to there's something almost primal about having the sound and the experience. And I do miss the manual stick for sure and the clutch. And it just brings like a whole nother element. You like more connected to the car.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the driving experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is the driving, but it is what I was brought up on.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. Maybe we just haven't had enough time to adjust to the new
Yeah.
technology.
It's really interesting this because it this without getting too much into finance, it's the same thing, isn't it? we're going through this stage of, and we're witnessing it at our age. We're witnessing this transformation of how life used to be. Totally, totally in everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's I quote you all the time. What a time to be alive, because
Yeah,
it
for
just
sure.
does your brain in.
Yeah. It's just
Because
probably
it
going to get
just,
more and more wild for a while too.
oh, well, probably, well, I'd say this often, I'll be worm food, dude. Well, worm food, and it will still be progressing.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even, well, I can actually now begin to realize that if all the right circumstances come together and innovation is allowed to become a thing again, in a free market, then I can't. I'm dead excited about where it can all go,
Yeah.
given the right reasons for it to go that way. Of
Mm,
course,
mm.
it's
Yeah.
great because I
It's
know
going to be.
my grandson won't have a choice. It'll be
No.
probably an electric car, and
Yeah, maybe.
he might hear me if I'm still around saying, "Oh, back in the day,
Yeah, yeah.
used to change this and whatever. You don't know what it's like." And a roll of eyes, yeah, whatever, granddad, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever. And I go, yeah, but the noise. And he'll go, yeah, but what noise do you want? And he'll pick out whatever noise you want it to make
Yep. Yeah,
on
for
the
sure. Yeah.
screen. And it'll
Yeah.
all be played through as that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird, dude. It is so weird. I begin
Yeah.
to feel like my grandparents now.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's evolving fast. It's evolving fast for sure.
It's crazy cool, dude. It's crazy cool. I love it.
Yeah, and it seems like a very, we were talking about this earlier with my father-in-law as well, that it seemed like in a period of maybe 10, 15 years at the most, we went from needing 6 liters of engines displacement to be able to generate 5, 6, 700 horsepower to now they can get 4 or 500 from 2 liter with a turbocharger and a bunch of like special mapping on the computers. And it's just really weird. Like even because even the Mercedes C63 once upon a
Yeah.
time was a 6.2 liter engine.
Nice car.
Nowadays it's a 4 liter twin turbo or bi-turbo, slightly different, same thing. And yeah, it still makes like 500, 600 horsepower, but now from a 4 liter instead of a six and a bit, right? And it's really weird how they just at some point in the last decade they figured out how to turbo tune these engines and really squeeze like insane performance out. And
Yeah.
probably some of that was motivated by needing less emissions, right? Some of
Yeah.
that's probably they didn't want these big thirsty engines or whatever.
Mhm.
But they found a way around it, and now because there's that Mercedes, is it A45 and there's a CLA 45, which is only a 2 liter turbo, and that thing makes like 400 brake from a little
Rocket
two,
ship.
and it sounds like a Honda Civic. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the weirdest thing ever. It sounds like a Honda Civic, but it does like a
Yep.
3.5 second 0 to 60. It's absolutely wild. So yeah, it's like the technology in that in itself, and going back like 20 years, it was pretty easy to take apart an engine and tinker with it and do a few bits to it. And then they added the whole ECU bit. And now they're quite complicated. You need to plug a laptop into it and diagnose it. And like you have to know what you're doing now. You can't just kind of like pull bits out and tinker with it in the way that you could a little while ago, you know? So
Mm,
yes. And now I guess if you get an electric car, it's an even, completely different kettle of fish there,
exactly.
which is really weird. I hear a lot of horror stories about those electric cars, by the way.
Really.
Yeah, well, two that are personal to us is someone my wife works with has an electric car, and they were coming back on. They'd gone on holiday somewhere, and then so they had like a good few hours of motorway journey to get home, and the car's running out of battery, and it's got a thing on the sat nav or whatever that says, "Oh, here's your local charging station." So they go to the charging station, the closest one. They pull in, and there was some kind of like update that had been missed or whatever. And the sat nav hadn't figured out that that place it had taken them to was no longer compatible with that car or with that type of charge or whatever the deal was. So they were like, "Oh no, what are we going to do? We're going to have to drive to the next one." So they plug it into the sat nav, take us to our local charging port. And they get to the local charging port, and there's like a queue of 5 cars there, and they're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do?" So they try to go another one, and then they get to the other one, and eventually, like they're struggling to make it, and they're trying to hope and pray they can get there and whatever. But
Yeah.
apparently, the whole thing is super super stressful because the electric cars, once they run completely flat, you can't even push them. I don't know if you know
Okay.
this. They just
No.
seize. They completely
Okay.
seize. So it's not like a normal car. You put it in neutral, you can push it to the side of the road. Apparently, they go completely seized up. And so they're driving down the motorway, and it's blinking at them like you've got 2% battery left. Like pull over immediately. And they're
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, if this thing seizes and we're in the middle of the motorway, it's obviously a really bad situation.
Yeah.
And they did eventually make it to a garage and then managed to top it up or whatever and get home. But yeah, apparently they were just so stressed that they come into work and telling my wife about it. Like, yeah, we're getting rid of that thing. Like.
It's 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 um it's really interesting because I going back to when I was younger, I can garages weren't open all the time, dude.
Well, petrol stations, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they weren't open all the time,
No.
you know. So if you went on a journey, you had to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if you was going to run out of fuel, you had to figure it out.
Were you ever a map guy? Did you ever carry a road map with you?
Oh, 100%, mate.
Did you? Yeah.
I mean, you had no other way of knowing where you was going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, I was fortunate enough to sort of probably a little bit, I don't know, blessed, but I've got a uncanny way of, working out, what's north, what's east, if it's night time when the moon's going to be, and if it's during the day, I can sort of roughly work out where east and west is going to be with the sun and all that sort of shit.
Hmm.
So I could sort of follow my nose roughly if I looked at a map and I was going, like for argument's sake, I lived in Essex for most of that younger part of my life. I was going to Leeds, I knew I had to go north. So I could sort of follow signs, to get me there. But yeah, of course, you had a map to plot where you were going. But, garages years ago weren't like semi supermarkets what they are today, where they're open 24/7. I remember certain times I've had to I've run out of fuel and I've had to push the freaking car
Yeah, yeah,
or leave it, go back the following day.
yeah.
It's it's you have to. I suppose with all those horrors, with an electric car, do you not do your research and work out possibly the pros and cons? Where are we in that innovation stage? How good are they? There's so much information out there now to make an
Mhm.
educated guess on, is the infrastructure any good now? Is it great? And, do your research before, if I had an electric car now, I'd be like very particular about my journey to
Yeah,
make,
yeah.
if I wasn't confident in the technology, which takes a bit of time. It's weird. It's all part of that innovation process, isn't it?
Yeah, I think slowly but surely that infrastructure is getting built out. I'm starting to
Massively.
notice like there's a few pubs me and the wife and the dog go to, dog friendly pubs, and I go there to get a meal on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever. And I started to notice that like charging electric car charging ports are popping up in the car parks there now,
Yeah.
in one or two of these places, and
Yeah.
so I think slowly but surely it probably become easier and easier, to charge your
Yeah.
car and whatever else and blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But yeah, it is probably like we're in that early phase, aren't we? So it's all
Yeah.
getting it all worked out.
Yeah.
Um,
And,
Are
and,
you are
and,
you
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, are you have you got a good like mind map of all the motorways and A roads in your head?
100%.
Because me and my brothers always laugh about this whenever we see our uncles or on my mum's side. If you say like, oh, we're traveling from this place to that place, they go, oh, so M25 junction 27, right? Then it's the A this turn off M2 junction. Like they know the roads, right? That
Yeah.
generation, which is like one generation above me, like my parents' generation, which I
Yeah.
think is right around your generation. To be
It
fair,
is. Yeah.
they've got this like road map built
Yeah,
out in their mind.
yeah.
And you go, oh, I'm going from here to here. Like I say, they go, oh yeah, yeah, M25, M this, M that, A road. And me and my brothers look at each other like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but we've never really needed it, Like
No.
it's not. There was always some way of looking it up online or using a sat nav or whatever else. So
Yeah, I hate it. I don't hate it. I love sat nav. I love technology. I really do. But I find myself when I go on a journey being lazy now,
hmm
and I just go right. Okay, put the postcode in. And but because of my what you just talked about, when it plots the route, I go, oh yeah, of course. I know where I'm
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
Yeah, I know where I'm going. So psychologically, I know that if I'm going north, I've got A1, M1, M40 probably, depending what part of the country I'm going up. If I'm going west, you've got the M3, M4,
yeah,
depending which way you want to go. You've got the M25. If you're going to go to Norfolk, it's M11, the east side of the country.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then pick up A1, A11, maybe if you're going to go up to Norfolk. Um, and what is it? M is it the M20 takes you south out of the M25 down towards Brighton, something like that. That's the basics of what is a really good ethically understanding. You've got the M5 if you want to go up to Manchester, from my neck of the woods. Or if you want to go north, you can go M5 on a toll road onto the M6. And you've got the M42 that takes you from, middle of the country, east, west, west, east.
Yeah, see, this knowledge is lost at your generation. Like your
Mm,
generation, I think, is the last generation to possess this knowledge. And I
mm.
think, at least in my experience, every generation below you just has no idea. And apparently, the new driving test, if you go to take a driving license nowadays, there's a sat nav component. Do you know about that?
No, I
Didn't know.
didn't. No,
Apparently there's a component where they tell you, so you're driving around or whatever, and they pull you over and they say, okay, put in this destination and use the sat nav or use the sat nav and the road sign, something like that. And then you have to, yeah, there's a whole component on that, which wasn't anything to do with when I took a test.
no. Well, unfortunately, dude, when I took a test, we had round dials. He was lucky if the speedo worked.
Yeah, and your
Lucky if,
license probably covers everything, right? Like you could probably drive up to a small truck or a lorry. You could probably tow a caravan, ride a motorbike. Am I right?
I can't do a full motorbike, but you can do like, or you used to be able to do you can do a moped. I think
Yeah.
they've made you do a thing to do a 125, but it used to cover you for a 125,
You can tow a
125.
trailer as well, can't you? Or a
Yep,
caravan. Yeah.
yep.
See, like the generation below you, again, from that point on, if you want to tow something, yeah, all of that's a separate test.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't drive anything bigger than like a rental van. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And if you want to, I think maybe you could drive like a 50cc moped, maybe if you do a
Yeah,
CVT or something like that, but you certainly can't hop on anything bigger than that.
yeah. It's interesting. That's not a lot of years, dude.
Nah, nah. And
When
then
you,
yeah,
when,
like I say, I'm pretty sure there's this whole like sat nav component
yeah,
nowadays, which I thought was absolutely crazy.
yeah. It is. It's fascinating. It,
Yeah, yeah.
and to be fair, as my youngest boy says nowadays, Dad, because I push him because he doesn't even drive. I say, don't you want to drive? And he goes, no, I've got no point. Okay, yeah. Um, but as he turns around and said, well, give it another 30 years, Dad. All I do is I'll ring a car up and it'll just pull up outside and it won't have a driver in. I
Have
said,
you seen
okay.
the have you seen the in Saudi Arabia in 2026, they're supposed to be launching flying taxis. You've seen that?
Flying?
So you know what? You know a drone, it's like
Yes.
four helicopter propellers and it flies up in the air. And
Yes.
apparently in 2026, they're looking to launch those in Saudi Arabia. So it's like a little drone and you hop in. I think it's got like one or two seats in it, and then it just flies around like a drone and drops you off wherever you got to go. And they can do like it said 320 something kilometers an hour, which I think is about 180 miles an hour.
Jesus.
I know, right? I mean, that's wild. Um, I was looking it up. I was looking it up in the news recently, and there's like a bunch of them in different places of Europe that are all trying to do it, and they keep getting stunted because of regulations and stuff, which makes a lot of sense because obviously a lot can go wrong. Um, but yeah, apparently I think it's Emirates that are doing it in Saudi Arabia, and they're looking to launch the first one in 2026. I mean, that is really from the future when you call it automatic taxi and then it flies you to your destination.
But that's the day and age we're in, dude. It's so exciting.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
It's so exciting, it's really funny. I'm gonna like this. Trying to keep away from finance a little bit because I did blast it for the first 45 minutes of the video.
Yeah,
But when you're talking about the digital age and the technical age, technology age, it's kind of hard when you're seeing all this innovation, which if you put it down, if you actually seriously look at it logically, all these things can improve our lives,
yeah,
can't they?
yeah, for sure.
You imagine like you can just I just want to go, we're all living like as you know, two of my children live in Essex. Well, what a
Yeah,
great way to get to Essex really quickly
yeah, 180-mile-an-hour drone.
and get back
Yeah,
in the same day, and it's been effortless, really.
and you can drink.
There you go. It's 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 I'm I can't comprehend that I might see that. It'd be great if I did, but it's just how can we then say that, dare I bring it up, things like Bitcoin can't sit in that same possibility in that sort of age? Why there's so much resistance when it comes to money? When we can all think, oh, that'd be good. We could have a hoverboard. We could have a driverless cab. We could have, all these digital wonderful innovations. But we just really struggle with money.
Probably because
Except
it's gatekept, right? There's the
exactly, yeah.
gatekeepers and the boys club, and they don't want to give up what they got.
Yeah, I get that, but isn't it not probably at some point inevitable? And it's just a case of you can't argue it, can you?
I hope so, to be
No, I
honest.
do as well, mate. I can't see it any other way.
I've just got to show you
Sorry,
something.
excuse me. I'm just going to mute myself. Sorry.
That looked funny. Share the joke.
Did you see it?
No, we didn't see it. No.
Oh, right. Okay. My wife just showed me no, it wasn't on camera. And I won't show it anyway. But my wife just showed me, oh, you'll laugh at this because Cobra's working this weekend
Yeah.
and he's doing a close protection job. And
Just found
I'm not going to say who he's doing it for or anything like that. But my wife's just found a Instagram shot of the person he's looking after walking down the wrong carpet. But guess who's holding the umbrella?
Cobra, is it really?
Oh, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant. So I leave that up for people to try and
Try
want
and
want
find.
want to find on Instagram. But yes, it really made me laugh. But But it's really funny because he did some work at quite a prestigious golf event at Wentworth this year.
Yeah.
And I happened to be watching the golf, and he was um, looking after a certain golfer. And on one of the pictures, I actually took a snapshot of it, off the telly, and I sent it to him. That in the background, against one of the advertising boards, the Cobra standing there, like in his big burly security guard, and he looked so fucking pissed off.
Does it?
And I took a snapshot of it off the telly, and I sent it to him, and he couldn't stop laughing. And he said that was the hardest day he's ever done because he had to walk all the way around his golf course, and obviously,
miles.
you know, it takes it's quite a bit of a hike if you're fit, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool because yeah, we get to see what he's up to. But it's really funny. It must be a great life. I'm sure he's got plenty of stories. Maybe when he packs it in, that he might be able to
Yeah.
might be able to talk about it at some point. But
He's retiring soon, isn't he?
I think he hopes to. I think he hopes to.
Does he still want to move to America?
I think he would like to. But you know, there's so much going on, dude, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty. You know, and I don't know the ultimate ins and outs of obviously a setup, but I think yeah, he has a lot of. It's a big case of what you want to do in life sometimes, and what reality will let you do at certain
Sure.
points in your life. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, but it's funny. He's it all sounds very. Do you know when you listen to other people's jobs and you find out what they do and you think, oh wow, that sounds really cool.
Hmm.
But boy, I've talked to him on you know at certain points, and I think, shit, how the fuck do you do that? You know, it's not very glamorous at all. It all sounds glamorous, doesn't it? But yeah, the money's probably pretty good. But I think when you've got to be on your toes or doing stuff that you don't particularly want to do, yeah. But he's very professional about his. Well, he's got to be. It's his business, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, he's very good at it as well. So, interesting. We've got one LV who's so desperately trying to join this podcast. This is the fourth attempt, but he's just can't get his audio working, which is a shame.
I'm pretty sure 1LV is a member of the Camel Crew.
Yeah, he's a member of this as well, which is great. Hey, dude, we've got 12 members now.
Nice.
That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Considering I never thought I'd have one. Well, I know I'd have one, and that was myself. But no, it is really interesting, isn't it? It's maybe yeah. I just so contradictory when it comes to the money. You know, how can we push forward the wonderful technology world when we've got to surely relinquish that perhaps at one stage that our whole way of dealing with money is going to be very digital as well.
It's not
At some
just
point.
that though. It's like the potential tokenization of everything.
Oh God, yeah.
Like the whole what do you call it? Like NFTs or whatever, which most people think about as like digital art. But the whole thing about a non-fungible token is it is by nature non-fungible. So you could have your house put into a non-fungible token and then transfer ownership over a blockchain, right? And you could do the same for a car or basically any material object. and thus we may well be moving towards this kind of tokenization of everything, where absolutely everything ends up having a digital counterpart on a blockchain, which ownership can be transferred in the click of a button, right? And I mean, that is something that's so far beyond what we have now that it's
Yep.
kind of hard to even comprehend.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if we were to move, I see a lot of like the big boys like BlackRock and a bunch of other kind of huge funds and stuff talking about the tokenization of everything. And I mean, in a way, it makes it more efficient, right? Like, for example, if you're going to buy a house, you've got to get a solicitor at the moment, right? And then they're in charge of transferring it, and there's got to be all this other stuff in the middle. But if you imagine tokenizing your house on a blockchain, then you can just, when the deal's done, you can just send it as easy as it is to ping Bitcoin or any other crypto around at the tap
Yep.
of a button on your phone, and that's it. And you don't need all the lawyers and stuff in the middle. You can have smart contracts drawn up so that the house doesn't get transferred until the payment is clear
Yep.
by the other by the buyer of your house, and so it would make everything like, you know, a lot more efficient and smoother and probably cheaper. But again, it's like super alien compared to the system we have today, which is very old and clunky and takes weeks. And like I say, you have to hire solicitors and paralegals and all this other stuff. So yeah, man, I mean, I think it's gonna be kind of strange, and I wonder how long it would take to implement. You know, like, is this something that takes years, many, many years, decades even to fully come out? Or is it some kind of like big bang event, cyber attack, and then you wake up one day and I mean, to be fair, tokenization of everything, that doesn't really sound that realistic to me, that it could be a cyber attack and you wake up the next day and everything's tokenized.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it probably is going that way for a number of reasons. Like, it's cheaper, it's more auditable, it's more traceable, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So yeah, it's going to be weird.
100%.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can't not see it happening, and it's things like the experience. I said to my wife during the week, I think I said, do you know the fascinating? Do you know last week's pod that we did?
Yeah.
Then I said to my wife, do you know Kirsty? Come on, my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, Kirsty come on, and I said to my wife, I said, all it did was, I'm on a Zoom. If you want to come on, there's the meeting number passcode. And she was on in 10 seconds. There was no explanation of how do you work Zoom? How do you do this? How do you do that? I don't think she's ever used Zoom before. And it was just second nature. It just worked. It just worked. And,
Yep.
and I've had people that I've come on my podcast that I've had to basically instruct how Zoom works. They're a lot older, but it just re-emphasised to me that it that the youngsters, this is just all second nature. And then when you talk about tokenization and changing things for the younger generation, you know, the generation under me downwards, they will just do it. They would just go, oh yeah, okay, that's how it's done now. Bang, move on. So I think we may see that transfer of once the higher ups, the boys' clubs, the governments, the innovators, maybe what's just happened in America, once they get to grips with the certain people that are going, yeah, that's cool, we can do this, we can innovate this, and we can structurally make it happen. It's going to happen. In my local bank, which is going in December, they have 2 days a week on a poster advertised for free tuition to anybody that wants to transfer their knowledge, which is probably aimed at the older generation, of how to internet bank on your phone. It's coming, dude.
Yeah.
And it's coming.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
they're
going to,
closing all the physical branches and stuff, right?
yeah, it's coming. And it's going to come quicker than what we think. It really is. Um, but that's what it is. As one LV finally got through, he's muted.
Oh, hello.
Hey,
Hey,
Hey.
sorry. I tried it, I think, 3 times and it finally worked.
you have, dude. You're going to be on the podcast 4 times now, where
I'm
where I
sorry.
sit and go, no, 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 don't say sorry. This is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because I love recording things as they happen. And I kept going, I don't know who 1LV is, but they're really trying hard to get on. And I hope they get on.
It's nice to meet you, Andy. Nice to meet you, Camel.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Finally, I also hear a sound. There was, I think, I have multiple desktops open, and I think there was a little window that just jumped on the other desktop, and I was struggling to find a way how to get in. But then now, finally, I'm in, so that's good.
And I love your avatar, dude.
Thanks. Yeah. Actually, I was just looking for something, and I found this thing one day when I was just kind of like sitting on the street, and I was wondering, just looking at the people, and I thought, just somehow, if if we were monkeys, then monkeys would probably look at us, and we're like super busy going to work, like really focused on stuff that is more or less important. And so I just thought that, we're all just strange monkeys. And since then, I just kind of love monkeys. So I use them everywhere I can.
That's really cool. Got the laser green eyes and the eyeball in its
Yeah,
mouth. Love it. Love it. Dude, welcome. I'm so pleased you're obviously a new member to the channel, and I think you're a
absolutely.
member of Camel's channel, aren't you? Or
Yes, that's how I found the podcast.
oh, wicked. That's really cool. And brilliant. This goes to show and it proves that what I'm trying to achieve with members being able to have an opportunity to come into a free space and just talk whatever works. And 1LV's the perfect example for that. So I can't thank you enough, dude.
How does this work, actually? We just come on the podcast and talk about stuff. Is it okay if I'm here at all?
Dude, no, this is what I want. This is totally
Cool.
what on this sort of setup. The more people that you're here when you play this podcast back. When I was before anyone come on, I was talking about what I'd like to see with a podcast, and what I'd like to see is to just try and give members the opportunity because you guys, you're subscribing a bit of money to the channel, but try and give you guys the opportunity to come on and express yourself in a very informal way. And that way, hopefully, people that are members will feel a part of the channel and they can, if they wish to, participate, if they wish to, and feel a part of it. So you're living proof. And thank you, dude. Thank you,
I
sir.
think what we find is a lot of people are kind of apprehensive or nervous about coming on, right?
Mm.
They even with their identity hidden, or you got your monkey, I got my camel head. um, but even with that, people seem to be like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk on the internet. They seem to have some kind of concern that something bad will happen or they'll look bad or whatever. But yeah, a lot of people, I think, when you eventually come on here and just have a chat, you realize that it's not really that big of a deal, right? It's just like a normal talk down the pub, and it's very informal, like Andy said. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on. Do you want to give us like a brief outline of your background or
Yeah,
your
sure.
story or something like that?
Happy to. Actually, first I want to start with I know, like Camel, I just wanted to say big thanks. I know maybe this is not the right context or frame, but I just learned so much in the last months, particularly since I've been following your channel and your content, and that's been extremely helpful. It reduced my my nervousness a lot, so that's really appreciated. So thanks for that.
Awesome,
And
thank you.
yeah. And then, yeah, no, basically my background is actually I'm an immunologist, I'm a scientist, and yeah, and so sometimes when I was listening to you guys talking, I just thought that it's quite interesting because it's just I think in the last 2 to 3 years, it just kind of opened my mind to a lot of a lot of different, very new ideas, and you touch upon a couple of them in some of the discussions that you had. And so yeah, so that's kind of what got me curious. But then also obviously the trading and especially also the discussions with Kim Osabi, which I find fantastic as well, super interesting. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions or something?
That's bloody awesome. Do you know one of the nicest things I just like when you started it off and just had this has just given someone the opportunity to say personally thank you to Camel, you know, and that's what it's about. It's a really like personally actually and Camel to hear the words, you know, rather than a text and whatever. So did you like that? I thought that was really cool, Camel, wasn't it?
I mean, it's awesome, but as I always say, man, I mean, I've said it to you a bunch of times, Andy. Like the it's really awesome to know that the work I put in is adding value to people and people are finding it useful. But at the end of the day, it's all you, right? Like there's plenty of people that watch my channel and they basically gain nothing from it. And I can tell that by the type of comments they write and and the type of attitude towards markets and all of this kind of thing. So I mean, if you're doing well, that's obviously I put some content out and you found value there. But I mean, ultimately it comes down to you, right? You can take the content and build on that, and but ultimately you have to make your own decisions. And yeah, so it's on you, man. If you're doing well, then pat yourself on the back, not me at all.
Oh, you're so humble, Camel. He's such a nice guy. Yeah, cool. So what did you say you was? At a numerologist, did you say?
An immunologist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you've got some views on certain circumstances over the past 3 or 4 years.
The the funniest thing is that actually I was living in Milan well, you know, the in 2020.
Mhm.
So I just kind of stopped talking to people because I really didn't want to talk about the immune system at all.
Yeah.
I felt like it's just not a good conversation topic at the time.
Yeah.
But then much more than this, I think it's good. I'm generally always happy to talk about health. Like I think this is good for us all, like physical but also mental health. And so there's always like a possibility, like even if you're not like if we're all the people on all kind of levels of education and backgrounds to get something out of the topic health, and that's the most important thing, I guess. Without health, we're not really able to do anything else.
That's like massive. I think it's overlooked. Um, we can, I think I've said it before, we can get very easily entrapped into this mad hamster wheel life, I like to call it. And we can definitely forget about, you know, priorities to look after ourselves because without ourselves, we haven't got much else really. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're saying. That's for sure. So, are you still in Spain?
No, no, in Italy. I'm actually right now in France.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm quite close to the Mont Blanc, um, which is, yeah, I hope you know where this is because I couldn't explain it any. Like
Obviously,
it's close to Chamonix,
yeah.
uh, and
Well,
it's quite secluded. There's like it's this very very small town somewhere in the middle of nowhere, so it's actually quite nice to have a little pub time with you guys because the pub around the corner is closed. Everything is closed, so.
that's brilliant. Oh, you'll have to come on whenever you want to, dude. I will make this probably as long as I can set it all up, something that will bring a few people together every week and just talk about whatever. Really, to be fair, I think it's really cool. I can't believe it. I mean, when Kem's on, he's obviously from America, and now we've got someone from France on. It's purely an international chat, which is fantastic. So, out of curiosity, obviously you indicated there that you obviously like a bit of trading, investing. Would that be true?
Yeah, but I'm not an expert at all. So I just started maybe like a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll
And
just do
how,
it at the side.
yeah, how are you finding that whole journey especially in France?
Um,
Um,
I think I do it for the pleasure of somehow kind of understanding macroeconomics better in general, because I think it influences pretty much everything. And it's very interesting to talk to different people with different cultural backgrounds about these kind of topics, because there are so many different views. And yeah, and then obviously there are a lot of different kind of styles and methodologies. And I think for example, Camel, like, he introduced me into the cycles, basically the cycle theory, which I find extremely interesting. And then one thing leads to another, and then you find chemo, for example. And I think he's more into Elliott waves, and sometimes he draws some kind of lines, and I think it's somehow like a wizard. And so you sit down and you start doing some research and try to learn. And yeah, and then there's a couple of other like very hardcore analytical, like people that look at the liquidities and how they move, and so very dynamic. And so there's a there's a lot to learn. Of course, I would like to spend more time on it, but I just have so much time.
yeah,
I got to ask
sorry, go on.
if I can like take this on a tangent.
Go for it.
You said you're an immunologist. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you do? I'm dying to know.
Sure. So, well, basically, I'm a molecular biologist, and I did a PhD in immunology and worked in biotech for on cell and gene therapy and developing basically cell therapies. And yeah, and then I decided to go a little bit into a different direction and start like developing, like drug development was something that is now a bit in the past, and I was kind of trying to develop into more the commercial side. But yeah, that got somehow a little bit, I don't know. I'm a bit kind of, it's a bit confusing right now, because I'm trying to kind of develop into something new, and I'm not really entirely sure what it's going to be, I guess.
Am I detecting a hint of ethical or moral hazard here?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's, you know, I'm not very, I think, well trained in knowing exactly how to speak about this without getting into somehow either trouble or maybe offending. I really don't want to offend people that have certain views, but yeah, but definitely, I think my major motivation is somehow find something new, or find something that is maybe complementary, would be to kind of, I don't know, make a step where I feel a bit more comfortable with how I do things in that industry.
Yeah,
Does that make
to
sense?
me, this is super close to home because I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry,
Hmm.
and I used to see a lot of things that I was like, is that okay? Everywhere I looked, everyone was like, yeah, this is fine. This is how we do it. And I was like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know if that aligns with what I believe to be okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm pretty sure like it portrayed, at least in my experience, my career portrayed itself as like we have to do things scientifically, but then when it came down to the wire, it was like we were okay to cut corners a lot of the time. And I remember thinking like, why am I the only one that's like pushing back here? And I noticed that, at least in my experience, the more I pushed back and was like, is that okay? The more I started to ask questions, the more people started to get quite frustrated with me, as if I was kind of some kind of anarchist or anti-establishment kind of guy. And yeah, eventually this pushed me towards being like, I need to do something different. That's how I ended up becoming a trader. But it almost sounds like the way you're talking almost gives me a very similar vibe, almost like you perhaps, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost sounds like you're maybe having a similar kind of experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, you probably know that for sure you know that it's a bit more complex, than it's not so easy to explain, because people would like to have the easy explanation very often, like something is either bad or good. and it's just sometimes I have the feeling it's a bit more complex. It's just not like a lot of things. They are not necessarily um, mean-spirited or somehow with a very, very bad intention. Like it's somehow like the picture that gets painted sometimes. But yeah, I for most of the part I agree. Like I can give, for example, like I don't know, maybe an example, a more tangible example was just like last year I went to a conference and I asked there's a certain society of cell and gene therapists and I asked the president like more or less I don't know what kind of funding we were talking about funding in general, and so I was just kind of saying, making that comment that with that amount of money, I was just wondering like how much would be the impact be in terms of health if you use that to, for example, just provide access to clean water in certain parts of the world. And I was just wondering, like, I was kind of bringing up the discussion. I was just saying, wouldn't that somehow have more impact? Like, what does that actually say about this whole kind of project? And so I don't know if you refer to this when you say, when you ask questions and then somehow you turn into the annoying anarchist that has like different ideas.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and so, yeah, but it's true that it's difficult to do this. Really, also, I do believe that not everything is bad, and there's definitely a lot of there's a lot of I don't know, it's a lot of like science in itself is incredible. Like it's just you just need to know how to handle it, and it's not an absolute um, measure of everything. It's kind of it's just yet another methodology that people can somehow use to advance or not. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say to that.
Yeah, for sure. No, you make a good point actually when you said you don't believe it's like mean-spirited or like intentional. I completely agree with that in my that was my experience too. I was looking around and it's like it's not like these people are deliberately doing things wrong, but I think for me the issue was nobody seemed to want to ask questions. It was kind of like, hey, do this. And they'd be like, yep, sure.
Yeah,
And that willingness to blindly follow orders without ever stopping to think, like, should I be doing this? For me, that was one of the big things. So yeah, I completely agree. It's not necessarily mean spirited. I think a lot of people just kind of are on autopilot. And if somebody tells them to do something, they do it. And they
yeah.
never really stop to ask if that's the correct thing to be doing. So yeah, I think you said it really well.
But you have it a bit like you have it in every industry. I guess it's just when it comes to health, it's something that really affects everybody and it's very emotional as a topic. So then it comes through much more. But in general, this kind of routine that people, do something at work and then very often don't have the time or the mental capacity to, next to their job and their family, and maybe they have kids and they have other things in their mind and thinking about the broader picture of what is it actually what I'm doing here. And so, yeah,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's definitely a lot of people that they turn up and they do their job and they just want to collect their check and go home, right?
yeah.
And then that's not necessarily conducive to the best
Which is
interest of humanity in general, right? But
which is fair enough, though. I mean, I guess it's just if that's the way how you roll, then yeah, that's okay as well. I mean, I guess that's most of the people in this world. But it's good to have these kind of platforms, for example, where you might be able to express yourself and say what do you think.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And so bringing it back to investing, like, is this, you kind of said it's almost like play for you in a way. Am I right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
interesting
So
right now. Is it something you've got like a long-term goal of maybe transition into, or something you're just using to add to your net worth over time or protect against inflation, or what's the deal?
well, ideally, it would be fantastic if I could make this my job, but I think I'm still a bit far from that. So, but yeah, that would be great. Mainly, also, actually, to be honest, I think what I really like about this is the independence just focusing on kind of managing. Sounds maybe a bit strange, but managing your wealth means that you have to define to yourself what wealth actually means. Like that can be your health or your family or somebody you love or your money. But that kind of, basically focusing on doing this the entire day, that means that you don't necessarily, if you don't want to, you don't have to kind of prostitute your intellect. That's what I used to say always. Prostitute your intellect. When you have a job, you need to do some work to kind of survive and to get paid for maybe doing something that sometimes you really don't want to do. And it's your time and your energy in your lifetime and your life energy and your intellect that you have to put into this, a certain number of hours a day, maybe 8, maybe more. And yeah, so I guess it would be great if you can focus that on yourself and the people you love.
Yeah, you make a really interesting point there about being forced to define wealth by your own standards, right? Like, is it money? Is it family? Is it health? Is it a combination of all of these things? Probably is a combination, right? Like, it's no good having loads of money if you have nothing else, and vice versa. So yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. For me personally, this whole thing is like freedom of time. I think time is the only commodity you can't get more of, and so for me, that's like the biggest. That's the biggest factor that's the most attractive to me is the ability to choose how I spend my time. And it takes a great deal of sacrifice because there was many, many, many years where I had no time whatsoever because all I was doing was studying markets and cycles and everything else. But in the scheme of things versus like a normal sort of 9 to 5 where you're kind of there forever until you're 60 or 70 or however old retirement age is going to be. Yeah, it's definitely, if you can make it, it's really good. But it's definitely not for everyone at the same time. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And frankly, a lot of people are not going to be willing to put in that work, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's definitely really cool.
It's interesting. You call it like your time. It's pretty much actually what I meant. It's basically when I said your energy or your life energy, that's pretty much your time because that's not really something that you can get back. It's just when it's gone, it's gone. So it's important to kind of manage it well.
Yeah, and I often think of it in terms of like your childhood is kind of, I don't want to say wasted. Wasted is probably the wrong word, but you're not going to use your childhood to generate wealth and decide what you're going to do, right? Your childhood is for growing up. And then there's probably a period at the end of your life where you're going to be old and winding down and not able to do the things that you can do in the middle portion of your life. So really your life is a lot shorter than you maybe think it is, right? And so I think that, yeah, having the ability to choose how you spend that time and making sure that that time is rewarding and satisfying for you is super important.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say this because I had, I think a year or two ago, I had this conversation with a guy I met in Greece, and he was significantly older than me, and he told me that, you know, he said when you're older, then it's not just that like things change. He told me like I cannot see that well and like anymore, and maybe also certain things like when you swim, maybe you get more tired or when. And so he was just making the point that there was just after swimming like for half an hour to then there was actually really a bit of a strange story because we swam to a light tower and back and and we were completely destroyed. And so basically he just made me realize that it's not just, it's kind of like, I don't want to say the life quality, but the amount of sensation that you can live in a phase in your life is not always the same. Like when you're a kid, you're super strong. You might, have a hangover, and then the next day you score 3 goals in a soccer match, and all your friends they find it funny. But then maybe I think this guy was like around 70, and so maybe what he could do at the age of 35, like swimming to the light tower and back, that's not that easy anymore. And it just associates a different type of emotion to that thing that you always like to do. That might also be your side, that might be something else. And so it's just in the moment, in that time when you enjoy it, that's the best. And then later on, it will also be good, but it might be different. And so it's good to manage these things well.
Yeah,
Hope
for
I
sure.
make this point.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What do you think, Andy?
Sorry, I was talking, I was just about to talk, but I didn't realize I was muted. Um, excuse me 1 second.
Can I ask you, Camel? What was
Yeah, sorry.
what was your background?
My background, I did a chemistry degree, and then I worked a bunch of lab jobs as a lab analyst for a pharmaceutical company. And then I did some work in validation for a while. And I ultimately ended up in a job where I used to write the protocols for the manufacturing processes of tablets.
All right. And then how was the process more or less, like from that into trading? Was it something where you just said one day, okay, that's it, I need to quit this and I do something else, or was it also a gradient?
It was so it took me 1 year of working as a lab analyst.
Hmm.
And I remember one of the biggest turning points in my entire life was I'd been working there a year, and I was on a relatively small wage because it was a, entry level lab job. But I could see like there was progression to move up significantly more money if I was to work hard or whatever else. Um, but I remember 1 year after I'd started working this job, I got a pension statement through the post, and it said like by the time you reach retirement age you will have, and then it had a projected figure, and I forget the exact number, but it was like, I don't know, 80 to 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I was a small entry level salary that I'd started on, and I was paying in like the bare minimum 2% a year or whatever. But I remember thinking to myself there and then, I was like, what, like what if I lived to 90? Then 100 grand divided by 30, 20, 30 years, like I'm like, this is not enough to live on, right? And so I started to think about it. I was like, okay, well, what if I double my salary because I work up a little bit, and then what if I pay double the amount into my pension and blah blah blah. And then even then the numbers didn't math. I was like, I'm never going to have enough money to retire comfortably, right? And then the more I started to think about this, the more I was like, oh, like even if I work my way up to the top of the food chain in this pharmaceutical company, I'm probably still never going to be able to afford like a Lamborghini and a yacht and all this. And you don't need a Lamborghini and a yacht by any means. But the more I started to think about this, the more it kind of, none of it made sense to me anymore. And so I started to research how to grow your pension so that I could retire comfortably. And then from there, I kind of found the stock market, and I started to make trades in penny stocks. And then this was kind of like an overlap for a few years where I was like working as a scientist, and at the same time, like taking all my money from my science job and investing it in penny stocks and trying to learn and develop a trading system. And then eventually, after like 4 years of not really, I was making money, but then I was losing it all, and then making money and losing it all. And then eventually all of this kind of coincided with, I started to get to a real place in my career where I'd worked my way up out of the labs and into these like office jobs. And I was writing, like I said, these procedures for the manufacture of tablets and stuff. And then at this point, I was in direct contact with the regulators, because I used to have to write these processes and send them off for testing and do some science on them and lab experiments, and then send it off to the regulators. And the more I was in contact with the regulators, the more I started to ask myself these questions. I was like, do these drugs need to be here? And for many of them, I used to do a lot of mental health drugs, a lot of antidepressants, and I couldn't get away from the fact that, if you ask my personal opinion, and I'm not saying this is right, it's just my personal opinion, but a lot of the drugs I was writing procedures for and manufacturing processes for, I genuinely thought they had no place existing. And so now I found myself in this place where I'm the guy that's writing the procedure for this drug, and I don't agree the drug should exist, right? And I'm like I'm looking at the data that's backing it up, and I'm like, this doesn't help people really. I wouldn't prescribe this if I was a GP. And at the same time, I'm the one putting it there. Like, and I mean, if you take me out, they just put some new guy in and someone else does it, right? But it just didn't sit right with me. And so I started, by the time I finished up in this kind of, the higher level that I got to in my career, I started to have this real kind of like moral conflict where I was like asking myself all these questions, like, is it okay that you're putting these drugs here? Is it okay that these drugs are being given to people and you wouldn't take them and you wouldn't give them to your family? You know, so I was going through this whole kind of like moral hazard. And then the more I asked my colleagues about it and the senior scientists and my bosses, they would all just kind of look at me like I was crazy. You know, like, why are you asking these questions? And that made me feel even more uncomfortable. I was like, I'm the only one thinking here, right? So that made me feel even more uncomfortable. And then at the same time, by the time I got here in my scientific career, I had also had about 4 years experience by this point of trading penny stocks and making money and giving it all back and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually I just kind of fell out with my boss and he was giving me a real hard time at work. And I just said, you know what, F it, I'm going to leave and I'm going to be a trader. And it was really difficult, to be completely honest with you. It was really difficult in the first few years. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, I'm going to have to go back and grovel for a job or go and find another pharmaceutical company and do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But by the grace of God, I kind of made it work. And yeah, here I am, like, I don't know, over a decade later. And yeah, by the grace of God, I managed to make a career out of it. So, so yeah, happy days. I definitely think I got some lucky breaks in there. I managed to find Bitcoin in 2017, although I didn't buy it until the bear market lows of 2018. And that definitely enabled me to get, you know, a pretty good jump start. In terms of, well, that enabled me to capture gains that were otherwise unattainable via the stock market, right? And by then I'd kind of developed a cycle strategy, so that applied and transferred over nicely to Bitcoin. And then the rest is kind of, I got to this point where I was like, let's make a YouTube channel, man. And I don't really know why. I don't really know why. Again, I think it was another kind of moral hazard thing. I was saying to, I've said this to Andy a few times before, that I felt like I wasn't contributing anything to society or collective consciousness by just sitting at home and trading stocks all day. And so that's a big reason why I wanted to start a YouTube channel, to at least put some stuff out there that people could take, and so that I could contribute something other than just sitting in a dark room by myself and trading stocks. But yeah, it's been a wild journey. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and it feels good to have, like, finally, I don't want to say like made it, but like finally, you know, it feels good to. I don't regret the decision, right? Like, I definitely was, when I look back in hindsight, I was very, very, very unhappy and very, very miserable working as a scientist. And I don't really think that's anyone's fault particularly. I think there's just a lot of conflict of interest within the industry. But yeah, that's my story. And here I am. Now I'm a YouTuber for some reason. And yeah,
it's a fantastic story.
But I love it, man. I love it.
Can I ask you another thing? Like, when you, sorry, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I was just wondering because, like, I can tell you from my side, like, going into Bitcoin has been actually kind of a very interesting experience in itself, because not necessarily everybody is very open to Bitcoin in general, and so sometimes I wonder, like, people like Camel, when you say 2018, I mean, we're now in 2024, where the whole landscape is very different. Like in 2018 or earlier than that, it must have been quite intense, like going out of, you know, just basically like trying to get and build a new job, a new existence, and going into something where people might potentially still say like, oh, well, Bitcoin is like, it's all a scam, you know, it's all, and so I'm just wondering, because for me, from my own perspective, sometimes it's not that easy. Like even with people that, you know, even with friends or people that are close that might have very strong opinions, strong negative opinions on Bitcoin and also generally the crypto scene. So I was just wondering for you both, maybe like if you could explain a little bit like how your journey was and how you deal with this usually from a maybe even mentally.
Well, I can tell you for sure, right? Having done this, I'm coming up, I think, 15 years now total from the time I first traded a stock to today. And I can tell you that people don't get it even now. And to illustrate this, I will tell you, I'll give you two quick stories, right? So first of all, going back a little while ago, I don't know, 6 months, let's call it 6 months roughly. My wife goes round to her dad's house and he says, how's work? How's life? How's this? How's that? And she said, oh, it's really good. I'm about to drop a day, right? I'm about to drop a day at work. I'm only going to be working 2 days a week. And his response was, what do you mean? Camel doesn't work, right? That's what he said, and and she was like, "What are you talking about?" Right? But he just is from a generation that, like, or not even from a generation, like he's just, as far as he's aware, you have to go to work and you have to work 9 to 5 and you have to do overtime, and if you don't do that, then you don't work, right? That's just his perspective. And you might say, well, maybe he's just a bit crazy, right? But I have a very similar story, which kind of is the same but different, right? So going back, I don't know, 6, 12 months before that, I'm out with, so that is my that's my wife's biological father, and then she has a step father as well, right? So I'm out with my stepfather-in-law and his kids, and we're having a few drinks, and we're in the pub and we're chatting and whatever else, and then we bump into another guy that they know, and it's like, hey, come over, blah blah blah, blah. And then we're having drinks and chilling, and so he goes, so Camel, what do you do? And I go, oh, I'm a stock trader, and he goes, so you don't even work then, right? Like, that's what he says to me, and then the whole table kind of a lot like erupts laughing, and it's like, oh yeah, jokes on me, whatever. And I just kind of like play it off. It doesn't matter to me. But it was really funny because it shows that there are many people out there that just can't really comprehend that you can own your own time and that you don't have to work for somebody, and you can do this as a job, right? So it's really weird because even after all this time, how do I deal with it? Well, I just kind of shrug it off. I have another funny story where my my auntie, which is my mum's sister, was asking, what does Camel do? And so my mum says, oh, he's a trader, right? And then she says, what, like Del Boy? And meaning there's this show in the UK, right, that only falls on horses, and there's this guy that kind of wheels and deals and sells random stuff out the back of his van, and that's what she thought I did. So and she was like, no, he trades markets, right? He trades assets and stocks and commodities, whatever. But to answer your question in a kind of like very short way, I think people just aren't going to get it a lot of the time, at least in my experience. Like I said, to this day, people still think that my wife keeps me and I don't work. I just stay at home and do nothing all day. And I think a lot of people aren't going to get Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin's exceptionally complex because Bitcoin requires tens or even 100 hours of research to truly get to the point where you understand what it is and why it exists, and you're okay with holding a significant chunk of your net worth in Bitcoin. So yeah, I think, like, how do you deal with it? I think I just kind of have to laugh it off and trust my own judgment. Like I believe I know what I'm talking about, and hopefully I do, right? So but yeah, it never really gets easier for me. Something else I experience a lot and have done for my entire career is people will say, what do you do for a living? I say I'm a trader, and they immediately follow that up with one of two things, and that will be either, oh, you know what you should invest in? And I'm like, wait, I thought I was the trader. You're going to tell me what to buy? Or the other thing that happens, and this has happened multiple times, people go, what do you do? I'm a stock trader. And they pull their phone out and then they go, oh, look at this. I just placed a bet on, and it will be a football game or a horse race or whatever else. And I'm like, oh, I guess, yeah, is that the same thing? Maybe. So yeah, I in my personal experience, it doesn't get any easier, and you just kind of have to like roll with the punches and understand that people aren't going to get it. That's my experience personally.
Interesting. It's good to hear. I think I'm doing the right thing then.
Do you know one of the fascinating things about that question that you asked was all the time you was trying to get in earlier, no one else was on, and that's what I was talking about. A journey.
Is it?
Yeah. So when you listen to the beginning of this podcast, you'll hear me talk about all the answers to the question of what you spoke about. I find that really weird. That's like, almost as if like that was meant to happen.
It's done a full circle.
Yeah, it's really strange because I was exactly talking about my how I emotionally react to my whole journey, not in depth, but as a as much as I could talk about in 45 minutes, really. But how that journey affected my emotions, the ups and downs, the information that you take on when you first start to learn. I talked about, I got to know Camel right at the early stages of my investment, but it wasn't just Camel, it's other people that I mentioned. And it's how that whole journey influences you and how you're taken into it and how your own bias match your journey and what you're trying to, and you don't even know what your journey is really when you're going into something new. But it's the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of learning. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is how it's affected me and how I've reacted to it. And I'm still doing it today. I'm still learning it. I'm still observing how I react to it. I'm still sometimes second judging my choices and my risk and why I'm doing things. But over time, you begin to trust sometimes inner instinct against technical analysis, against data, but most of all, transferring that into the real world to see how that transmits in the real world. Does it back it up? Are what you're thinking about, it is what you're learning, not only being a textbook reading or watching of a video. Is that actually happening in the real world? And does that start to cross those T's and dot those I's in your learning of why you get into certain assets? And then you begin to, then you start to go on this journey of trusting the information, trying to trust the information that you're taking in, and also trying to trust the information that you're trying to comprehend in your own mind. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I don't regret one day of getting into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just, I'm no far from being an expert, but I'm 3 years in now almost, and loving every day. I love the challenges that it presents myself mentally, physically, and constantly challenging my mindset, trying to work out, backing up in my own mind, have I done the right thing? Have I not done the right thing? Now, what am I going to do going forward? Now I've invested in it, now you've got this new paradigm of, do I really fully understand where it's going? Well, probably not. But do I get out? Do I get in? Have I learnt the cycles enough to give me that positive feel to make certain decisions at certain points when it's going up, going down, or whatever? It's great. I love it. Absolutely love it. But I answered a lot of that at the beginning of this video, to be fair.
It's
This
great. I can't wait to see
trading.
that.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I just said I can't wait to see that then.
Oh, yeah. This trading game is really a game of self mastery, and it can be as basic as, are you a gambler or are you a trader? Right? Can you manage the risk? Can you say, okay, I'm never gonna take a position too big. I'm never gonna say F it. I'm going all in. Right? Can you do that? Because a lot of people literally can't. they just can't help themselves. Right? Can you hit a bunch of trades that win in a row and then still say to yourself, okay, the next trade we trade with proper size and proper risk management? Because a lot of people, they hit 3 or 4 or 5 trades in a row and they go, I've got this sussed, I'm the best trader ever, time to go bigger, time to add leverage, right? And the inverse is true as well, right? Can you take a few losses and say, well, that's expected, that's part of the system, right? We continue on, we continue to trade the plan, right? Or do you have a few losses and then you go, this is a scam, I'm sitting out, I'm waiting for some obscenely low number that's never going to come, right? And then do you become dogmatic, like, well, no, it's probably a bull trap, it's probably a fake out, right? This whole thing is kind of like a self-mastery process. You have to learn yourself and you have to figure out, you have to be able to make decisions and then live with those decisions, even if those decisions are wrong. You have to be good at saying, okay, I'm going to sell here. And then if that was the wrong time to sell and the market moves higher, okay, you have to be able to say, well, that's okay. I made my decision and I'm going to live with it, on to the next one. Whereas a lot of people take it personally. If they sell and the market moves higher afterwards, they go, oh no, my gains, I should have, let me just FOMO in, let me just chase this move higher, and it's all of these kind of like rash decisions and hopping from one thought to the next that is really your worst enemy in trading. You have to be able to make a decision, stand with that decision, even if it's wrong. And that does not mean that, for example, I was calling for a top in Bitcoin this year. And that doesn't mean that I can say, well, I expect to top this year. And when we continue to print new highs into November, I go, no, 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 no. This is a bull trap, right? That's not what I mean. I don't mean being dogmatic in your approach. You have to be able to pivot and adjust to new data. But what I do mean is if you make a decision and it's wrong, you have to be able to say, that's okay, right? I made a decision and I have the reason for making that decision. And now we move forward, right? I'm not going to hold that against me. I'm not going to beat myself up. You just have to be able to accept that you're going to get things wrong and you're going to get things right. And neither one really carry any weight. Right. It's all about sticking to a process and managing your emotions. It's not okay to be like panicking and FOMOing and all of these other kind of, it's okay to have emotions. It's not okay to act on those emotions. And so that really is the challenge. The whole thing is mental. You have to be able to kind of deal with your own mental issues. You will have these issues that tell you to buy the tops and to tell you to chase markets when you know it's wrong. You will have these thoughts in your mind that tell you to put more size on or to just this one time, I'm not going to respect risk. And it really is a game of mastering your mind and learning who you really are and learning where your weak points are and being able to have the confidence in your own ability to stand with your decisions, even if they are proven wrong later in life, right? It's okay to say, well, I was wrong about that. Let me step back and let me find something else. But it's not okay to say, well, I was wrong about that. Let's FOMO in at the top and add leverage and try and recover my gains. And now you sound like a gambler, right? Now you sound like a degenerate gambler with a problem. And so that really is like the biggest thing for most people is you have to be able to kind of like figure out where your vulnerabilities are and be able to kind of make a decision and stand with it. So yeah, it's a very interesting game. It's certainly not for everyone, but yeah, it is what it is, right? It is what it is.
It's so much easier said than done, really. I mean, that's
100%.
very well put, but it's pretty. I think I don't know. Like from my experience, it's really just if you get into into I don't know the cycle low of Bitcoin, and then somehow things get suddenly very serious because your size just somehow increases with Bitcoin going up, and then you realize, oh, this is actually this is serious. This is not a game. Okay, and then you spend a lot of time on it, and then you realize, wow, it's not just actually about money, it's also about the time. Again, back to the lifetime, the life energy, the time that you spend on it, that's also worth something a lot, actually. And then you realize, okay, you speak to a couple of friends and they say, oh yeah, let him do it, and once he makes money with it, then he should explain to us how it works. But then that doesn't really work like this at all. And then you realize, okay, but who am I going to talk to about this if it's not the people that usually live around me and they know me, but they don't really know what I'm doing. And so, and that's kind of a little bit, you get into this gray zone where it's not just the actual mental strength that you need to trade and to go through all of these things that Camel just described, but it's also like that maybe you want to kind of, then you find yourself in some kind of Discord channels, kind of like chatting to some people you actually really don't know, but at least they go through the same thing and they seem to be nice sometimes. And then it's this kind of journeys. It's very interesting. So at some point, you find some camel on the internet and he explains to you the world and you start to learn a lot, and then you find some other people and they teach you some. Yeah, so it's kind of a strange world, but that's basically how it goes at the moment.
So I mentioned earlier that I shared my experience with people still to this day not thinking that I work and they don't understand my job or whatever else. So do you struggle with this? Have you found this? Have you experienced this directly? Have you had anything similar to this?
You, me, or you, Andy?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's kind of, I think, why I'm pushing that topic so hard. It seems so, because it's just it's not that easy, I guess, if you just decide to say, okay, look, I have this capital and I would like to become a trader, and maybe you've done some sort of course, and then I don't know, you just manage your own capital. That's somehow accepted, and yeah, people might have difficulties understanding that. But then the combination of that and something that, it's Bitcoin is somebody, I don't remember who said that, but somebody said once, like, Bitcoin is like everything I don't understand about finance together with everything I don't understand about computers. And it's really fantastic. It always makes me laugh because it's really like, I think sometimes you just mix all of these things. And so you start something new, plus you don't really necessarily have the support. And so what do you do? And then it's like not just the mental strength for doing something new, but also to do it pretty much on your own, or find your own methodologies, your own like alliances. Like I assume, or I guess this is almost a little bit an alliance what we're doing here, because I mean, hopefully other members will join in the future, because I think this is what it's all about. It's like creating a space to kind of like express that, because that as a whole maybe it helps. And then maybe not now, maybe you don't find the gold nugget that you're looking for, but at some point something will pop up and you find something that helps you, and that really can make the difference between you staying calm, taking the right decision at the right time, or not. And then the consequences can be quite severe, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's super tough because if you think about the the percentage of the population that can show up to the gym 3 or 4 times or more a week versus the percentage of the population that's like, yeah, I want to work out, but then they never go, or like, yeah, I want to lose weight, but they never try. Right. And I feel like the same kind of thing transfers to this space. It's like, if you want to actually, if you want to understand Bitcoin, you have to put in a lot of work and research. And if you want to understand how to trade, you have to put in a lot of work and research. And similarly to whether it's like losing weight or gaining muscle or learning to play the violin, like the only way you get to these things is to put in the hours and the time. And the absolute reality is a lot of people are just unwilling. They just don't care, right? For whatever reason. And it doesn't make them bad people or like whatever. It's just simply some people just don't care. They would rather do other things, and that's fine. But of course, it can kind of, for the people that want to ask questions and want to put in the research and want to maybe think differently about things, it can kind of feel quite isolating, right? Because then you speak to your friends and you're like, hey, I found Bitcoin, like you should do some research. And they're like, nah, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you're like, but trust me, bro, just put in the time, like read the, and they go, oh, well, I'll buy it if you tell me to buy it, right? And you're like, yeah, but you won't be able to hold it unless you put in the research and blah blah blah. So yeah, it can be quite an isolating thing. But I think the same would kind of be true of a lot of things. If you were like, hey man, come and learn the violin with me, like not a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, I'll practice this thing for 3 hours a day every day for 8 years, right? Like people just aren't going to do that. So yeah, I get it. Like it's a super kind of like isolating area, and finance is super weird as well, because I noticed that the people that give the most amount of financial advice are usually like not in great financial circumstances themselves. And when when you tell people about Bitcoin, they're like, "Oh, can I make $1 million in a week?" Like, no. Oh, well, I don't care then. Okay, but maybe you should care. Nah,
Yeah.
I got other stuff going on, you know. So yeah, it's a very weird place, but I think you're right. Like the internet has definitely, and having a YouTube channel for me personally and a Twitter account and stuff has been able to kind of aggregate people that think a similar way, people that share like-minded opinions and that kind of thing. It definitely is a platform to enable people to come together and speak and bounce ideas off of each other. And it's interesting because through this kind of like platform, you can have conversations with people that you're like, oh, I agree. You're not crazy, bro. Like I share your experience, I share your opinions, and yeah, you're not crazy and you're not alone. So I think that's like the beauty of the internet in general and having these kind of platforms. So yeah, don't feel too crazy and don't feel too isolated.
I actually went to a conference. Like, I went to the ETHCC this year, and then also before that, I went to just to kind of be. My aim was to be around people that somehow understand. What you just sit down and talk about ETH or about BTC or about many other altcoins, and they get it. And not that I'm a huge fan of all coins, but at least you feel a bit more normal, and then you realize, oh wow, there's actually a lot to learn, and then everything gets a little bit easier. And once you know one, then you know a lot of people, and you find your own kind of friends. And at some point, it still all ends up on some Discord channels where you're talking to people and you're like, well, how did I slip into this discussion about Trump and I don't know, future policies that I have no idea about? Why am I kind of like talking about this at all somewhere on Discord? And so with some people you don't know, but then I don't know, like it's just all one thing in the end.
Brilliant. Gentlemen, I've got to call this sort of to an end. Unfortunately, I'd love to listen to this. This is what I really wanted from my virtual Dana pub chats. But that's 2 hours 45 minutes I've been going now. So, and it's almost bedtime for me. 1LV, you've been the epitome of what I've been trying to achieve. I'm so pleased you've come on and you've persevered and pursued getting the technical side of it sorted, because what you've just expressed, the way you've expressed it, the way you've interacted with Camel and myself, is what I'm trying to achieve. And I'm hoping that I've got so many questions I want to ask you. So many questions. I'm hoping that you can come back, hopefully, next time.
I'm happy to, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. That's
Thanks for saying
brilliant.
that. I was a little bit concerned, actually. I didn't know if, it's the first time I'm doing this, but it's been really nice. So also from my side, thank you very much, Andy and Camel.
Well, that's an absolute pleasure. It's not a problem. And again, it will emphasize to others, it's not as tough as, it's just having that confidence. Come on, we're all the same people, we're all human beings. We all poo the same. We all eat the same. Maybe different foods, but the concept, well, being a doctor in what you're doing, the concept, we're all human beings. We're all doing the same, but we're all on different paths, we're all on different journeys, but we share the same thing, and that's definitely to try and improve and live a better life, which is what it's all about. So I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you, Camel. You bring everything to the podcast as always. And yeah, thank you very much, guys. And please come back next week. Please, please, please.
Thanks for having us. It was lovely to speak to you, mate. And I hope you don't feel too lonely on this journey. But just know that, yeah, you gotta have that confidence in yourself, because it can be quite a lonely profession. But it's worth it. I can assure you of that.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
No worries. Thank you very much. Please like, share, subscribe. Have you got sorry, I should have asked you, do you have a channel, or do you interact anywhere? Do you want anyone to come and see you, or?
No, not at all. I don't know. Do I have to?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It's probably a wise decision would be. No, it's cool. I always give the people the opportunity if they want to promote themselves, if that's what they're into. But no, it's cool, mate. I can't thank you enough. Both of you, thank you so much. Take good care of yourself. Have a very good week. I'm looking forward to the week to see what it brings. And yeah, God bless you both. Take care. Thank you very much.
You too, brother. Take care, one.
Have a good week. Thank you.
See you later. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.